ButRod.
Repeat the por favor.
This is ButRod.
What is that?
Always two there are.
I don't know what you two are hopped up on, but it's going to wear off, and you're going to be very regretful about your actions.
Really?
Now, here is ButRod.
I mean, if you can't be at least mildly interesting, then shut the hell up.
Matt Butler.
Old Matt's going to be your shadow. Here's you, here's Matt. There's you, there.
And your host, Rod Baby.
All the girls and all the guys on the team started coming to my room like, Rod B, let me get on some of them chicken fried steak. I'm like, all right, here you go. I am a Negroid.
Yeah, exactly.
I love fried chicken and white women. All right, welcome back to another edition of ButRod. This time we are truly in the 21st century. Matt, you got to explain to the folks out there what's going on. There's a lot going on here now. You know what I mean? Now we are truly hooked up.
Yes, we're live here
We're
on
live.
Facebook. Yes,
We're looking
out there.
live.
People looking live. Yeah. To quote old Brent Musburger, you're looking live at ButRod.
Looking live at ButRod.
That'd be Matt Butler and Rod Babers.
There you go. That's a beautiful thing. All right. We got a lot of things to get into on ButRod, and we don't have a ton of time to do it. We're gonna jam as much sports and pop culture and whatever the hell else comes to our mind as we can into the next, hour or so.
That's a good theme of ButRod.
That's the base of the whole thing.
Much in.
It's exactly. It's a gumbo. Essentially, is what ButRod is. All right, so we'll talk NBA. We got NBA draft to discuss. We'll talk about all the NBA offseason and the NBA. I call it the rumor season now. We'll get into that too. We'll talk Spurs because LaMarcus Aldridge is reportedly on the trading block. We'll talk Paul George, NBA offseason that hasn't really started yet, which is probably the most. I would say it's the most rumor-filled NBA offseason we've had in quite a long time. Nothing really substantive has happened.
Yeah.
As a result, but it's just a lot of rumor and conjecture out there. They call them reports, but they're just rumors about anything that can happen, and it's great for what we do because we can talk about almost anything. Any hypothetical almost can possibly come to fruition. I'll give you an example. I believe even Matt and I, we were talking maybe a couple of weeks ago because I brought up on the show Kristaps Porzingis. That was an article that said, man, Kristaps Porzingis didn't go to his exit interview. He may be very upset by this. Somebody should try to trade for him. And I brought it up on my show, and people kind of scoffed at it. Like, get out of here. I was like, I should retire that topic. It was kind of stupid. And then literally, you have Phil Jackson days ago coming out on an MSG network interview saying, yeah, you know what, we're open to trading Kristaps Porzingis because he didn't go to his damn exit interview. And you're like, what world am I living in? This is true. We are living truly in bizarre times. I'll get to more. You know what? Oh, another example of bizarre times. Okay, this is crazy. It's just kind of the gumbo thing. We'll get to the NBA here in a minute and everything, and then we'll go behind the burnt orange curtain later on. I was just reading this, and I thought it was fake news, and it sounds like fake news. This is why I was distracted to start the show. Variety magazine. This is the headline. This is not funny, but it
is funny.
It's unfortunate, but I can't read the headline without thinking, like, what the hell is going on? Bill Cosby to hold town halls on sexual assault following his mistrial. I did not make that up. See?
It's
exactly.
like an Onion article that you see.
What?
It's like you really think you had to double take when you said it. I heard that yesterday. It blew me away when I heard that too.
I thought it was fake news. I was like, that's not real, man. I was like, I'm not talking about that on my show because that's not real. I got to suck it in. No. Because it was on some weird website at first. Then I found it on Variety. I'm like, Variety can't just be printing stuff like that or putting stuff like that out there.
Were they phrasing it one way? He's like, no, it's actually just the lacking of awareness. But when you look at the lacking of awareness, like you brought up Phil Jackson, it was really funny seeing him because it reminded me, like I remember transitioning into radio and being able to watch Astro games while listening to the radio, and the depiction from generations ago, you really could lie to the listener from like your homer perspective because you had no accountability. You couldn't be checked on it. If he was robbed at that call at second base, Milo Hamilton would tell you what happened. But then I'd be looking up on the TV and be like, wait, no, he was safe, man. What are you talking about? Well, the same thing's going on when you hear something from Phil Jackson where he's like, oh, no players ever left my exit interview. Shaq did it to you in 2004. Like, you don't even know. We know more info about you than you do. There are fans that have chronicled all the different things that he has said or the ways that he has talked about how the three-point is going to end all of modern basketball and how it's not going to last. It's going to be a fad. And it's like, well, no, look at these numbers. Look at these players. They actually are doing things that you said couldn't be done. And it's that idea that you could, back in the day, before the information and sharing of era, you could really get away with some things without being held accountable for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes I've seen that more and more from previous generations where you try to get away with it and you get called on it these days.
Yeah, but it's no, you're right. And it's interesting that he didn't have a problem really with. Remember Derrick Rose skipped a game?
Yeah.
Didn't Derrick Rose didn't he
yeah,
go?
He went home.
He went
was
home and
AWOL. I was
skipped
doing
a game.
daily fantasy. I've never seen this. They said Derrick Rose is not at the arena. We don't know. Like they didn't know if he got shot, where he went. No reporters knew. He had barely told one player.
I don't believe there was a punishment for that either. But the point is, I think Phil Jackson he's kind of become that grumpy old grandparent that's
yelling at the cloud.
He's the great grandparent, of the NBA.
He's Abe Simpson from The Simpsons.
Exactly. He's stuck in his ways. He's saying some things that are offensive.
Built my entire offense off the most inefficient shot in basketball, the triangle offense.
It is what he is. He gets into arguments with all of his best players, right? Into these little tiffs, if you will, with Carmelo Anthony. He and Carmelo Anthony don't get along. Right now, him and Kristaps Porzingis, they got their issues. So at this point, I would agree. I think it's time. And you know what? Phil's tarnishing his legacy. He's tarnishing his legacy because people are now they're debating whether he's a great basketball mind or not.
They're merging him into one thing instead of a coach.
Instead of front office feel with head coach feel.
Yes.
I agree with that 100%. But Kristaps Porzingis is out there. I don't know why Boston, which has, I want to say, is it, and I'm not trying to exaggerate here, is it 4 or 5 first-round draft picks in the next 3 drafts?
I honestly believe they have 5 or 6
maybe next
until
2020.
Now. Yeah, they have
this
6
just
through
place.
2020, I believe. So you add 2020, I think 5 the next 2.
How is that not? How can they not, have enough for Kristaps Porzingis to get him?
Well, they do, but I just don't know if necessarily it's going to be the piece to fit that team right now because I think they're sort of plotting out for 2020 through 2025 when LeBron's
Well, no, the reports
gone.
are that they're trying to deal for him. They said that the price tag right now may be a little too high.
Very
for
similar
them. But
to the same reports with George and with Jimmy Butler. I think they're just going to be asking an insurmountable amount to where, we'll be interested if you're going to give it to us.
The Jimmy Butler amount, to that point, and I agree with you, but if Boston doesn't have enough draft capital, nobody does.
Wait, which is that draft? Don't even start me on that draft.
Nobody does, right?
That one is, now we're talking about the ineptitude of the Knicks and Phil Jackson. There may be one team that may be able to take away that type of label to him and be the worst offseason. It might be the Chicago Bulls. Because if you looked at what the Chicago Bulls have done in the past year, first, last year's team, ultimate train wreck. Then you trade away picks for Michael Carter-Williams during the year. Then you give Dwayne Wade his 24, well, he had the player option. You keep that going, and then you look at what you trade away and what you get. I mean, Zach LaVine, if he wasn't coming off an ACL, I could see some future there. Chris Dunn's a good player, but when you go in straight to the man Thibodeau, like you're just the guy you fired, and you let him come back and fleece you for that piece where you just dropped 9 spots down with 2 guys that the head coach Thibodeau didn't even want. That's crazy.
So you don't think they got enough for Jimmy Butler? You thought they could have got more for Jimmy Butler?
Yeah, definitely. I think Jimmy Butler could easily get more because all they did. Now, if they didn't give up their 16th pick, that'd be different. But when you think of, okay, they moved up 9 spots, and then they got Zach LaVine coming off an ACL that's done. Now, last year, I like Chris Dunn a lot.
Chris Dunn, who was the 5th pick, and Zach LaVine was 13th. They essentially got 2 lottery picks.
True.
Who else was going to give him 2 lottery picks? I agree in terms of draft capital, but we already know who those guys
Zach LaVine, the type of guy, I mean, his injury, very inefficient. Probably other than Isaiah Thomas, the worst defender in all of basketball by all defensive metrics. And, you're trading away the best guy at that position in all of basketball for those metrics. So it's just funny to look and see, well, Phil Jackson, your old team, that front office may be screwing up more than you are.
Yeah, no, it is. It's I was looking for this. Did you see the tweet by Jimmy Butler's Jimmy Butler's trainer, I believe it was.
No, I did not.
Yeah, I think that I'm paraphrasing the tweet, but I believe the gist of it was when he was talking about the GM of the Bulls. He says that I know drug dealers who are more trustworthy, essentially.
Yeah.
Than that guy. That basically he was just a bad guy. And my thing is, if Jimmy Butler's trainer is saying that about the GM of the Bulls, Jimmy Butler's trainer doesn't know the GM of the Bulls. They're
No,
not in
that's
the
a
same
random
circles.
thing to even
No,
bring up.
That's Jimmy Butler telling his trainer, man, yeah, my drug dealer is more trustworthy than that guy. His trainer's name, Tre'vell Gaines.
And that's all goes back to the firing the coach he wanted and bringing in a whole group of people
Yes.
that he didn't want. It was just that was ready to combust at any point last year. But when we look at these type of organizations and what's going on, it's really interesting also to see, because Phil Jackson, it seems as if he wants to surround people with the type of players he's comfortable with from his time playing. Sort of reminded me when I heard Danny Ainge's post-draft comments, because I easily can understand whenever somebody like Josh Jackson doesn't want to give a workout to the Celtics, how you'd be apprehensive to maybe draft that type of guy. But then when hearing a guy like Joe Dumars talk this afternoon, just randomly on an interview, heard him talking about, why he wasn't afraid to take the risks at the time in the early 2000s with go after Rasheed Wallace. He was like, well, I played with a guy like Rodman. I know that you can exist with different personalities. But whenever I hear some of the stuff from Jackson about the Knicks culture, or I hear Danny Ainge saying and really taking it personal and being very emotional, sort of how you've heard the emotion coming out of a guy like Phil whenever he's talking about a Porzingis, a Melo. After I saw Danny Ainge on TV, he was angry, like he was spitting anger out his eyes that they insulted such of a prestigious team in the Celtics. And I was like, man, it sounds like you want to get a team of those 80 Celtics guys and you don't even understand you're in a different era. So who knows, maybe it'll be a better pick, maybe there is more trust there. But it's just very odd to see people talking about how they want to surround themselves with very comfortable situations that normally lend to bad endings.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. It seems that to me that, and even everybody's got their own philosophy too on how to run it.
Mm-hmm.
You can try to replicate what the Spurs have done, but that's like trying to replicate what the Patriots have done.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't got Belichick and you ain't got Brady. That's tough to do. And even with anybody that LeBron James goes to, LeBron James is his own kind of franchise and front office in itself.
Mm-hmm.
What recently happened with LeBron, and I gotta say that the most bizarre thing probably that's happened so far, and we're less than 2 weeks from the NBA Finals, and we're already, I would say this is one of the best, in terms of storylines, best off seasons the NBA has had.
Yeah.
I think it is a direct result of the Mega Max summer of the super teams, if you will.
Yeah, no, you're spot on.
And everybody feeling very inadequate because of how great the Golden State Warriors are. And LeBron James, there's a domino effect too. The Cleveland Cavaliers, for some reason, they fired David Griffin. Not fired him. They couldn't come to contract terms with David Griffin, who was their GM of the last 3.5 years. And LeBron James, who was going to bat for David Griffin, who actually was a big fan of David Griffin, had publicly said he wanted David Griffin to get an extension. He was not consulted about the I would say the parting of ways by Dan Gilbert, the owner, and neither was Tyronn Lue. So my thing is, in terms of you were just talking about front offices and the way people do things, Dan Gilbert, who is already on thin ice with LeBron James because of the letter after decision part 1, he makes a power play and does not ask. And I guess why would he even ask or tell LeBron? He already knows how LeBron feels, because LeBron was saying during the regular season he wanted his GM to get an extension, and yet he did not give him the extension. And not only that, didn't consult with LeBron or the head coach or anybody within the circle of LeBron when that move was ultimately made that, hey, man, you need to pack your stuff up and get out. We're never going to come to an agreement. That, to me, is essentially signing. You just signed away LeBron James.
Yeah.
You just basically gave him away. That was it in a nutshell. He did that on purpose. He's a smart guy. He's not an idiot. I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he's got enough money to own the Cavs. And he decided, nope, I'm willing to say goodbye to King James.
It's my team.
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Like, just the Griffin thing that you're
unbelievable.
saying. But when you talk about
crazy.
also the personality.
While he was in the middle of trying to get a Jimmy Butler deal. Remember that?
Yeah.
He was in the middle of trying to get Jimmy Butler. David Griffin was.
It's just crazy to think that you could easily go, like, not only not consult a guy like LeBron, but after you had basically done an unforgivable act, I would say, back 5 years ago when people thought LeBron would never go back to such a guy. And then even when he goes back, you hear, I don't even know if LeBron and Dan Gilbert even speak. I don't even know if they even talk to one another. And maybe that's why Dan Gilbert may be just afraid to even talk to his superstar, because LeBron didn't come back to win it for him. He came back to win it for Akron, for his hometown, and everything along those lines. So it actually would make more sense now when you think about it, looking back, that Gilbert and LeBron don't speak now. It's unfathomable, and the fact that you wouldn't even care what LeBron would want, knowing what he has meant to you. I mean, you go from being the best to the worst team in the league when
Every
LeBron's
time.
gone. It's hilarious. So, yeah, those egos and some of those front office ones, it's really tough when you blur the emotion, and then if you have fandom or if you have legacy attached, whichever angle that we're talking, from a Jackson to an ego guy like Gilbert, and you have that skew what actually is showing that this is your toy, this is your fun, not your job. You aren't operating it as a business how you've operated everything to get you to the point to buy your toy. Now you're emotional about your toy and are playing with your toy instead of doing what you need to do to be as mostly effective. It's crazy to see it.
Yeah, no, you're right about that, because, James Dolan's like that with the New York Knicks, right?
Oh, yeah.
The draft, that was a great story. I want to make
At
sure I
least
get
with
it
him,
right.
he's having fun.
There's a great story last night while the NFL draft is happening. I think maybe like 5 miles down the road, James Dolan, the owner of the New York Knicks, he and his band are playing. The name of his band, I think, is it like JD and the Shot Makers or
Yeah,
something?
something weird.
It's something weird like that. I don't know
Not
exactly
even a
what
good
it is.
blues name.
But I mean, I don't know how he views it. Oh, JD and the Straight Shot. Excuse me. So JD and the Straight Shot is the name of James Dolan band. And yeah, he was
Some
playing
straight
at a
whiskey.
gig down the street in New York City.
Like in Brooklyn.
Yeah, wow, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it was actually in the same borough while the draft was going on, and he was just, man, my band, I gotta get this band thing going. So
And oddly, I'd rather have that guy as my owner than some guy trying to act
But-
like he knows
no,
what he's doing, because that guy's
but-
allocating duties.
yeah, but not when Phil Jackson is burning the damn team down.
Agreed.
Now when he's pulling the George Costanza and he's trying to get fired,
Yes,
and
I
you're just
agree
ignoring
totally.
him. You know what I mean? Like he's Phil Jackson's doing
This is
everything
like
in his
the
power
Argo
to
principle.
be fired. He wants to be fired. He doesn't want this job anymore.
Yeah,
he
you
does
couldn't
not
script
want
it.
this
You
job.
couldn't script this on SNL. Like
Yes,
Lorne Michaels
he-
down the road wouldn't even write
He
a
is trying to
script that bad.
Donald Trump this thing, and he's still gonna get elected president. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
trying not to. He doesn't want it. He doesn't want the job. He's like, I don't know. I'm gonna rise to the level of my own incompetence. I don't want this job. And it was like, it's Phil Jackson. I guess you got to know something. Like, I can't believe it. I mean, even when everybody's against him, the owner doesn't see. If the owner was. If he was somewhat concerned about the ownership of that team, and he wasn't so rich that he had,
Yeah.
his band is what matters to him. I wish I could be that rich. I would
Like,
be
that's
so
the
rich. Well,
biggest
I
toy.
own a team, and I was like, hey man, the guy that is running your team, he sucks. He's terrible. He was like, well, you know what? I gotta rehearse, man. Me and my band, we got band practice coming up about 3:20.
Come
You know
on
what I
down,
mean? Like,
$8 cover.
it's great. I mean, but my point is, like, he really cannot. He can care less, and he owns an historic franchise.
It's
he can care less.
unbelievable.
So to your point, I mean, I guess you never know.
That's
most
why
people,
when we talk about a Jerry Jones or a Mark Cuban, you can really appreciate those type of guys that actually have the fun, but also have the mentality
it's
to
true.
understand to
Robert
allocate.
Kraft is perfect.
Oh yeah, that's
Robert
perfect.
Kraft is perfect. You know Robert Kraft is important. He hangs out with young ladies. He's like
Oh,
kicking
yeah.
it with chicks who are like 30 years younger than him. Every time you hear him speak, he's slurred like, yeah, the Patriots. Cause we're good. And he he's drunk or he's on pills. It's all good.
Yeah.
He's rich. He stays out of the way. He hired really good people. And now he's just enjoying life. You know what I mean? Or allegedly. I don't know if that's for sure. But he does sound like he's having a good time every time I hear him speak.
Big Bob.
Every Super Bowl speech he gives. And I'm sure it's Super Bowl. At the point that the Super Bowl speech is given, all of our speeches are slurred. Because we're all probably a little bit tipsy. I will say that.
Definitely.
By the time the Super Bowl speech is given. You know what I mean? All right. So I know we jumped all over the place for the NBA. I want to come back to that because I want to get to a little bit of Spurs, talk about that LaMarcus Aldridge situation. I think it's really, really interesting because this is the first off season for the Spurs that I can remember in like maybe 20 years. I don't know, 17 years, whatever it is, maybe longer than that, where there's a ton of uncertainty about the Spurs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you never hear about the Spurs in the headlines. They're very clandestine. They're very covert in what they do. And yet now they're all in the news. Like they're one of the leading stories in the news about trading LaMarcus Aldridge. Danny Green's on the trading block. They may be trying to get CP3. They may be trying to get, Paul George. I think it's really, really interesting. And other than the Cleveland Cavaliers, let's be realistic, nobody else is threatening the Golden State Warriors for some reason, because the culture of the Spurs and because of Popovich, that brain trust. The Spurs actually still had a shot versus the Golden State Warriors with a healthy Kawhi. And if they were entirely healthy, you could hypothesize, if they had healthy Tony Parker, healthy Kawhi, LaMarcus Aldridge, who wasn't playing like LaCarcus Aldridge, like the Walking Dead out there, that they could compete with the Warriors. Hell, they had a 20-something point lead on them in Game 1 on the road. All right, so I want to get into that too, but let's talk about the NBA draft first. NBA draft, and, the NBA draft, I know they're trying to do it more like the NFL draft, but, man, it's boring.
Yeah.
Dude, it really, they got to do something about it. It's boring. First of all, you don't really know the players. Most people don't know the players because, they're either one and dones. I think they had more freshmen taken this year, right, than in the first round than any other year. So you don't really know the players. They were one and dones. If you did get to know them, it was only for a year or so. But so most people don't know the names. And what they need, and this is great that the NFL draft has, they need a villain. And the NFL draft naturally has a villain because everybody hates Roger Goodell. So there's almost this uniting force, that galvanizing force with everybody watching that they hate Goodell. And then the storylines kind of start from there. The NFL has no lack of storylines. And neither is the NBA right now. The best storyline at the NBA draft was the villain, the WWE villain, LeVar Ball.
The one non-player.
After Lonzo Ball was picked, the NBA draft was boring. It was a buzzkill. It really was. I mean, they kept it on in the background, but nothing happened. Yeah. It was nothing. I would say there was nothing that went viral from it. There was nothing really that stood out from it. LeVar Ball, because he was a villain that creates storylines, and even all of his post-pick antics and comments, that was the storyline of the draft. Lonzo Ball picked number 2, and LeVar Ball being LeVar Ball. And I'll say this. People are saying that LeVar Ball stole Lonzo Ball's kind of spotlight and stole his dream opportunity to get drafted and have that moment to himself. Listen, a lot of people are hating on LeVar Ball. I've said this before. I truly believe that LeVar Ball is I don't know if he's a marketing genius, but I don't know if he's doing it intentionally. That's why I don't know if he's a genius. Yeah. But the plan is genius. And everybody makes fun of him. This guy's been talking about his son going to the Lakers for like 2 years. Yeah. And it happened.
And
think about that.
And what he's doing, I mean, everything from the business model to finding out that all these shoes were pre-ordered and aren't even going to be out till November, so he's just like no inventory. When you look at the way that this business has worked, the money invested and what he's turned it into already, it's unbelievable. And then the fact that not most of America doesn't get that he's probably in on this, as you said, playing that heel and guaranteeing the Suns are going to make the playoffs already, just saying everything, because look at what we're in, sports radio. You can say whatever you want. It doesn't matter. It just gauges opinions and then gets you to interact with people if you get triggered the right way. And LeVar Ball has triggered America about as better as anybody I've seen outside of maybe our president.
He hasn't done. I would say the president's done it better because our president got $2 to $5 billion in free media on his way to the election. Like basically the year leading up to the election, like $2 to $5 billion in free media.
That's insane.
Free media. Well, why not? Think about it.
It was like
every news organization covered them. Every pop culture podcast, everybody talked about that election, and everybody talked about Donald Trump the entire time. And either way, it proved that basically any publicity is good publicity.
Mhm.
And we live in a time, and that's why I said LeVar Ball is
Impressions.
following a perfected blueprint, not only about a president, but the Kardashians, I think, did it first and
Yep.
foremost. People talk about he's shameless and he has no shame. This is a day and age where you turn shame to fame and fame to fortune. You could do it. The Catch Me Outside girl is about to get a reality TV show,
Paris
and
Hilton's
she
still
gets
doing it.
yes. She was already rich.
Yeah,
I'm talking about
true.
people who actually just take
To
it,
just
and
to get it
and,
up
and,
there.
and Donald Trump's already rich too. So I'm talking about people who actually became rich because of it. No real
So the
talent or
Catch Me
anything.
Outside
All right,
girl
the
went
Catch Me
bald.
Outside girl makes $40K per appearance. Go look it up. I didn't make that number up. TMZ reported. All right, $40K. She don't have a talent. All she says is Catch Me Outside. She's suing Walmart because she trademarked Catch Me Outside, and they had a T-shirt in Walmart with Catch Me Outside.
She's gonna own
And
Amazon.
without that, she's about to have a reality TV show. I'm not saying I support it. I'm not saying I support LeVar Ball. I'm just saying it's a perfected blueprint. People say, "Oh, he's ridiculous." What he's saying is that we're still talking about it. We
Yes.
got to talk about it. It's a storyline he created, and in LA, actually, it won't be the biggest storyline. So if it was in a different market, he'd be considered crazy, Indiana or something like that. But in LA, actually, he won't be the biggest loon or the biggest buffoon,
Yes.
I should say, out there. So I think, and another thing, while we always talk and stereotype, and I'm a black man, so I'll throw it out there, black dads and how they're deadbeat dads
Oh, yeah.
who have multiple kids by multiple different women, and the ones who don't take care of their kids and won't pay the child support. Yep, we bring them up, and all of the athletes and celebrities who grew up without their dads and deadbeat dads. It ain't just a black thing. That's just a society thing. We make fun of deadbeat dads. This is a guy that's overly involved, and people still make fun of him. So what's the line?
No,
all right, this guy is to the point where all he does is pump up his kids and talk about how great his kids are. That's what all parents do. I ain't got no damn kids, but I know a lot of people who do. And you know what they do? They talk about how great their damn kids are.
Yes.
Every damn body I talk to talk about how great their damn kids are. And, it's a lot of a-holes out here, you know what I mean? And some of y'all kids gonna grow up to be a-holes.
Yep.
So all y'all kids ain't great. All y'all kids ain't awesome. All y'all kids ain't the smartest damn kids and the most athletic damn kids out there. I ain't got no kids, but I'm just guessing. But my point is, everybody love their kids. Everybody talk up their kids. When LeVar Ball does it, oh man, he needs to calm down. He's taking his kid's moment. Really?
Yeah.
Have you seen these kids' dads and moms at a high school football game in Texas?
Whoa, my God, it's insane. Or even just go to Oak Hill Little
Ridiculous.
League down the road. It goes out of this
Yeah.
world. But then, in add-on to that, if we're going to talk about the serious aspect of it with LeVar, I mean, I even have heard about all the kids with his younger brothers, how well he works with the other kids at the camps
Yeah.
and things along those lines. But if you could think that inside the empire, what do we always talk about? We talked, there's a theme all last show about the man and keeping it away from the corporate America. And like this whole system that he's creating is the one way where the family and the kid can become the whole benefactor of the entire brand. Now, if they do it wrong, yes, there will be repercussions, and he's passed up on some money on the front end. But everything that I've heard is people being upset about the father not being the father they want him to be for the kid, not the kid saying that, oh, actually, he had a hilarious commercial last week making fun of the
Yeah.
whole situation and understanding
I saw that.
every parent-father-kid relationship's different. Some are more of friends, some are colleagues, some are fatherly. It seems like LeVar's done a good job at being all of those. So it's interesting to see where that will go dependent upon success, too, because if it goes well for them, he could be starting an empire where are the sole benefactors instead of having to filter half of the money through Nike or somebody else.
Yeah. No. If it works, and right now the plan. And listen, I know I didn't scoff at the plan because I was like, man, listen, I understand what he's trying to do, and I remember when a lot of these startups, a lot of apps, they seem crazy at first. You're like, man, there's a new app called, I think it's called Dating AI or something like that, where you can, it's basically kind of like Tinder. You swipe, but it's based on your preferences. So you pick a celebrity, all right? It's like a celebrity lookalike dating app. You pick a celebrity, and then it'll find people who are on the app
That are
they
most
saw
similar?
Similar to
It's the
I
same
am.
baselines. Man, all these databases and
yeah.
algorithms out there are amazing. Like, This is
Exactly.
what sports nerds used to play with and get all those nerdy analytics numbers. That's exactly what you're doing right now is those baselines of filters for dating.
But there are things that people thought were like ridiculous at first, and it's like,
No.
man, honestly, it sells for like, all right, here later, it's selling for $1 billion. You're like,
I
what the
remember at
hell?
one point
What the
saying,
hell's
I'm not going to watch anything on my phone. I have a TV.
No,
And
man,
then-
yeah. No,
I remember saying that within
dude,
the past decade.
Think about this. Netflix now, I know we're getting off time. We'll get back to it. Netflix, there are more Netflix subscribers in the U.S. now than cable subscribers.
That's impressive.
And you know when you tell people that, it doesn't shock anybody. They go, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Makes sense. Everybody I know has Netflix. You know what I mean? Like, and you actually know people now that have cut their cord. And Netflix was one of those things back in the day where people thought it was kind of weird. It's kind of weird. I remember people thought Netflix was strange. And
Yeah.
remember, Netflix used to deliver DVDs
Yes.
by mail. That's what used to go down.
That's how it
then
started.
somebody said, nah, man, this is not gonna work. This I gotta tell you, I've done the research on our business model, and it is going to go straight in the tank in about 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
Blockbuster didn't see it. Blockbuster was like, no, we're good, just whistling along, and then boom. You know what I mean? Like that. And look at Amazon. Amazon's evolving quicker than almost any company in America.
Yeah.
Like Amazon started out, like I don't even know what the hell
They're
Amazon
gonna be
is anymore.
dropping off
Like, I have no
food
idea what
via
Amazon
drone.
is. They got the NFL contract for a year this year. What are they doing with it? Nobody knows. Oh well, the NFL doesn't even know. The NFL's like, yeah, they got a paywall. We don't know what the hell they're gonna do with it. It's gonna be for Amazon Prime people. My girl has Amazon Prime. She gets stuff delivered all the time. Now they bought Whole Foods. It's like, what the hell are you, Amazon? They don't know and they don't care. They don't care.
No.
At one point,
Monopoly.
Amazon and Netflix were like neck and neck. They were basically data companies, entertainment data companies, right? Making TV shows. They got into that. That's when Netflix decided DVDs are for old school. I saw this in TED Talks. Great. And then they both went the route. Listen, we got all this data. They were accumulating data. I mean, back then nobody knew what to do with it. Man, we got all this data that tells you what people like, what they want to look at, what they want to watch, when they're watching it, how they're watching it. You know what I mean? Like all this kind of stuff. And they're like, okay, what do we do with the data? What do we do with the data? And Amazon said, you know what? We're just going to use the data and we're going to boss hog it. We're going to just hog it, do it ourselves, and we're going to make a TV show by ourselves. You know what I mean? We're going to do it ourselves. And they made a TV show called Alpha House. Anybody remember that? Alpha House? Yeah, remember that? All right, it bombed. Nobody cared about Alpha House now. You know what I mean? It's hard to find people who know about it. And Netflix said, all right, now we can't do it because we don't really know what the hell we're doing. Obviously, we're just boss hogging it here. Let's take this data to Hollywood, to the Hollywood people, producers and directors. Give them this data and say, all right, dude, you know about making TV shows. Here's the data that'll tell you exactly what people want, what they want to see. The Hollywood producers and directors went, all right, let's do it. They made House of Cards. Still on to this day, by the way. And that was Netflix's big show. And, it was
And
like, boom,
along that
that's a
same
hit.
vein of data, you look
Boom,
at
hit.
what they have
Know what I
right
mean?
now. Have you heard of the new book, Everybody Lies?
Oh,
This
no.
book, instead of going based on data and things that are like, say, surveys that may be actually you know that you're taking it, so it may be not your true reaction.
Yeah.
It's a book that somebody wrote based strictly on Google searches because Google searches are truly the only portal into somebody's mind because you're only
Great
Googling
point.
how to do this, what is this, why is my father like this, why is my spouse like this, and he did this entire book. I heard an interview yesterday about it. Unbelievable. Look into it because
know,
of the
it's-
data, because that's the true
You're right,
data.
'cause that's
not
our library
the
now.
filtered data
That's our
that
library
you go
now.
through. Yes.
It's so weird that I mean, what did people do before they had to look at it? They would talk to other people and get advice.
Well,
I
and
guess,
this is
about
what
it,
we
or
talked a lot
read
about.
books.
It's
but-
changed sports radio culture data because back in the day, you used to have these long-winded conversations when you didn't know the answers, and you
Nope.
would have all
Look
these
it up.
hypotheses. And nope. Right now, let's
Look
just
it up.
get the info
Done.
and move on to the next
That's
one.
done. Oh yeah, you know what? It's people. I tell you all the time. It's made sports radio tough.
Yeah.
Like, dude,
You
my
can't be
job is
full of
tough.
it.
I got to do a lot of research. I got papers here galore on crap, and just in case I get called out, dude, you made that up. No, I didn't. I
No.
did it right here. I did the research. You know what I mean? Like,
Back in the
you
day,
have to
you
have
could
that now
go
because
off.
people via Twitter will call you out. And ironically, in the era of fake news, like it's hard in sports radio to throw out fake news.
Full circle
Harder than
back
ever.
to our
You know what I mean?
conversation about Phil Jackson and him talking about it. I never had anybody leave an exit interview. He's like, hey, your most famous player maybe ever has.
Yeah, no, what are you
And
talking about?
when you were talking about the NBA
Just
draft,
made it up.
since you said, you were you weren't able to watch much, I didn't watch the first half or the first round. I was out, but I came home during the second round and caught up real quick and had it on in the background. And while we're talking about this information era, this cracked me up more than anything because it was the draft picks for Edmund Sumner and Monty Morris. I mean, people remember Monty Morris from Iowa State, but it was the deputy commissioner coming out there, and he said, and now up next, Atlanta Hawks select, and a fan in the stands would yell, Monty Morris! And by the end of it, he was cracking up laughing because the people already know who the pick is.
There you go.
Because it's on Twitter, on their hands.
Yeah.
Yet you still have the bald dude walking out there to go say, and it is, and then you hear, Edmund Sumner! One guy just yelled at one point, Bacon! Because there's the kid from Bacon, to where everybody knew, and it's just so funny to see
That's pretty
that you
good.
had that evolution happening in front of you. And the other thing that stood out to me in that second round was Jay Bilas. This was hilarious. It was I wanted to make a montage of it. I just didn't have time to waste to clip together 30 consecutive draft picks where every single player, he said, well, you know, this guy, a good athlete, but a lot of improvement needed defensively. And he's like, well, it's just crazy how young this draft is. I was like, are you kidding me? What do you mean it's crazy how young this draft is? This isn't 1987.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like you aren't going to have polished players that come into the league. So if all you're going to be doing is yelling about what they aren't, you're going to be missing everything that they are or could be. And it was just so funny because every single
Old
time they
school.
went to him, I knew what he was going to say already. It was awesome. It was a drinking game. Like, you could just get trashed.
Get
doing it.
wasted.
Yes.
I believe the Spurs drafted the oldest player in the first round, Derek White. He was
Another point guard.
Yeah, and he's kind of point guard, combo guard. It's weird. He was a D2 player at one point, and then ended up being D when he went to Colorado Springs, Colorado, something like that.
State or something. he ended up.
D2, yeah, and then ended up at Colorado. He's got an unbelievable. He started out after he came out of high school at a culinary school. And
That's awesome.
No, he's got a story that sounds so Spur.
Yeah,
that
pure
is great.
Jonathan
You
Simmons.
know what I mean? Like, Jonathan Simmons was going to be a barber or something like that before.
And he paid $150 to become a Spur, and then it's like, oh well, we'll let you leave town and replace you with a guy that went in culinary school.
Exactly. So I read this, I was like, yeah, that sounds like a San Antonio Spur. He's the oldest player in the draft. He's 22, I believe. Yeah, they had a lot of youth in the draft. Okay, then let's talk about the Spurs. Talk about the LaMarcus Aldridge reports. LaMarcus Aldridge, basically, it's been reported that he's on the trading block. The Spurs are looking to trade him. LaMarcus Aldridge, interestingly enough, and Stephen A. Smith said it, and there have been reports about this before. Stephen A. Smith is claiming that he wants to be traded. That is LaMarcus Aldridge who wants to be traded. That is not necessarily the Spurs who are just looking to move him to upgrade their roster. That he is the one that doesn't feel like he belongs there. I believe, to paraphrase Stephen A. Smith, he feels like he's been underutilized and devalued, actually. Devalued by the Spurs, which is, I this could be an exaggeration. Stephen A. Smith is pretty hooked up. I don't agree with everything Stephen A. Smith says, but I mean, he's the guy that broke the decision part 1 for LeBron James. I mean, he's
well connected.
He's very well connected.
Reporting, it's really good. If it's his opinions, you may be off on it.
Great point. Yeah, exactly.
Because his reporting is going to be as good as anybody's. He's as well connected in the NBA for sure.
Great way to put it. And so that's what he's reporting, that it's LaMarcus Aldridge. He's not the first one to report that. He's probably just the most connected, I should say, to say that.
This isn't a derailment, but that is a big blurring that I think in society we see now with sports, because you have all these talking heads that you confuse as opinion guys or reporters, and some are both, and that's a way that you can get confused with that guy real quickly.
So that's what I will say. This, I hope it's an exaggeration that he feels like he's devalued and underutilized by the Spurs. The Spurs, we all know, if anything, the Spurs get more. The guys overachieve with the Spurs.
Yeah.
Their system, it develops guys who at one point on other teams would just be jags, and the Spurs can turn those guys into not only key contributors, but sometimes into all-stars. And not saying that they wouldn't be without, the Spurs, but the Spurs just have that type of reputation. And they're a dynastic organization. Best front office in the NBA, best head coach arguably. You could arguably of all time, and you can make that claim. He's a Mount Rushmore coach in Popovich, and LaMarcus Aldridge is the biggest free agent that the San Antonio Spurs have ever brought in. And this is a homegrown type organization that builds through the draft. And they brought him in as part of the reinvention of the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, think about that. That's like Bill Belichick saying, all right, you know what, bro? I want you to come in and be one of my cornerstones to rebuild after Tom Brady retires. You know what I mean? Like,
and you normally aren't off when they do that. So that's where it makes you wonder where the disconnect has been necessarily on the court. And, you know, I think, to be fair, when you look at what he was brought to do with Kawhi as the lead guy, I think that he really can still be successful within it. But when you hear this report, I really think that this sort of comes down to like the lost in translation. When you say one thing, send it around to 6 people, and it comes back out, and it's a little bit different than what you said, because everybody knew whenever he went from Portland to the Spurs, I assumed his numbers are going to drop. He's going to the Spurs. He's going to be a part of the cog in the wheel. You know, now he maybe isn't a guy that was out front to embrace and say, I'll be that third option. I'll be that Bosch, that Love. But it's like you aren't in the corner. You're doing the inefficient too, and you aren't spacing the floor as well. So if you are going to be that complementary piece, I don't know how well those pieces fit inside the modern game. So when you look at it, I think the word devalue, it's like, well, in his mind, when he was leaving Portland, he was the number one total top free agent in all of basketball, actually, at the time, because that year was very weak on the amount of free agents. So then whenever he comes there, his numbers, now he has been devalued, you could say, because his numbers weren't what they were. But I don't think the Spurs did that. It's just that if you know what happens when you go to a team like that moves the ball, your numbers may be compromised because your minutes are going to be compromised. He's only going to play 30 minutes a game.
Yeah, yes, good point. They were his numbers dropped because of inefficiency, and you know what I mean.
And the game,
because
like right now,
he was
his field goal percentage is
lack of
90th
effectiveness
in the league.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't because he seamlessly transitioned into the system.
No.
And then he was instead of obviously Kawhi Leonard being Batman, I don't know, Tony Parker being Robin, whoever.
It took a while.
He actually was supposed to be Robin. That was the whole point.
Yeah.
Like, he was supposed to be Robin to Kawhi's Batman, and right now he was more. It seems like he was playing more like a Commissioner Gordon or an Alfred, you know what I mean, like an Alfred. That's what he was.
Fit, I just don't think.
And maybe he was. Maybe he was supposed to be what Kevin Love is to the Cavs, and maybe he was supposed to be what Bosch was to the Heat, and that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
And then you could have brought in, I don't know, someone else to play that second row, and maybe that would have been better. But for some reason, it didn't work. And you know, I remember Pop saying a couple of years ago he wants him to shoot more. They wanted LaMarcus to shoot more. He was like, man, I don't know who he's deferring to and why he's deferring. That guy needs to just shoot. Just shoot. Don't worry about it. Just shoot more. So I think him being devalued is his own fault, honestly, because it's the Spurs. I'll take the Spurs side on that. I'm not a Spurs fan. I'm a Rockets fan, but I'll take the Spurs side on that. I mean, that's you can't blame that on the Spurs. You can't blame if I get a shot if Beyonce gives me a shot. Because I think Beyonce is the hottest woman on the planet. Beyonce, give me a shot. She's like, you want one night. You get to do it. We get to do it. Get it on. Two back beast, me and you. And I get one night because she believes Jay-Z cheated on her. She'll give me one night. Boom. You know what I mean? And I can't perform. I can't rise to the occasion. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, I can't rise to the occasion. Maybe because it's freaking Beyonce. It's the hottest woman on the planet.
A lot of pressure.
I can't blame that on Beyonce. Yeah.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, I can't blame my erectile dysfunction on Beyonce. That's a me problem. I got a little too nervous. It was on the big stage. It was Beyonce. You know what I mean? It didn't work out for me. I'm not saying this is an example that it happens to me.
This
So I'm
did
just
not
saying
happen in
it's
ninth
not like
grade.
a personal analogy. You get my point.
You did know Beyonce.
But my point is, he can't blame his basketball dysfunction on the Spurs. You know what I mean? That's the Spurs. It's the Spurs. If it was the Raptors, people are like, yeah, it's the Raptors. I believe that. You know what I mean? If it was the Pacers, you go, yeah, I believe that. It's the Pacers. You know what I mean? But no, it's the Spurs. No, dude, that was Beyonce. You couldn't rise to the occasion with Beyonce? No. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what's supposed to be the shame in it. But I just think it's not a good fit. He's not a Spur. Spurs fans feel like that. He's not a Spur. Spurs fans are big on that. Is he a Spur?
Yeah.
And that's why I say that guy they drafted, Derek White, he sounds like a Spur. His story, that guy's a Spur.
Yeah, and LaMarcus is the type of guy that I really think that if he get into the right fit could really be one. Because when you look at the numbers, like when he left Portland, is per 48 minutes, he shot 46%, he had 31 points per game, 14 rebounds. At the Spurs the next year, 13 rebounds. rebounds, 28 points, and 51%. Shot more efficiently, less points, but a lot really is dispersed upon what expectation is when you're going there to be with the Spurs and you are going to try to compete for a championship. You got to be as good or better as you've ever been, and that's where he really wasn't.
All right, we got a few more minutes here. Here's a real question, real quick. If you're the Spurs and they look like they may be trying, and I love the Spurs, what they're doing now to go all in. Just go all in. You got to go all in because the person will say, why? You got to build for the future. No, there is no future right now because Popovich is probably going to retire in like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And when Popovich retired, people are like, oh, we got R.C. Buford. Do you know who hired R.C. Buford? Greg Popovich.
Yes. Pop's been around that long.
Yeah, he's been around that long. This is the guy that was in the front office, fired the head coach, went down as head coach, but he had hired R.C. Buford before he decided to become head coach, and R.C. Buford becomes the GM. Like, it's him. He's the brain trust. Mm-hmm. We even see now with Duncan gone, we're like, oh, yeah, it's Popovich, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like and I'm saying R.C. Buford makes him a more effective coach. He makes R.C. more effective. They got a good thing working. I love the talk about great owners. Their owners, we know the owners of the Spurs don't agree politically with everything Pop says.
Oh, no, far
nothing
from it.
Pop
Holtz,
says.
no.
All right, exactly. But you don't hear nothing like that. Ain't nothing. They're like, hey, man, that guy's, he does what he does, and he got a job to do, and he's the best at doing his job. You know what I mean? So back to those owners you were talking about that do it the right way. But that's why the Spurs got to go all in, because when Pop retires, he's got the Team USA in 2020. I think the Spurs, it's going to be hard to absorb that loss as well as you absorb the Tim Duncan loss. Yeah. That one's going to hurt. Mm-hmm. And I know you got Ettore Messina there, and, that could happen, but I'm sure it'll be great, but it won't be Pop. Okay, so CP3 or Paul George, if you're a Spurs fan, which one is better?
Spurs would be Chris Paul, that would be, not
Chris
Paul George.
Not Paul George?
Yeah, both
I
would
agree
work with pieces, but yeah, just with what Kawhi does, there's really no need. It'd be almost as if you're adding a lesser version of Kawhi to be along Kawhi when Paul George doesn't even want to play the 4.
I think, this is weird, I think matchup versus the Warriors, Paul George is better. Because it would be a freakish matchup to have basically the two best two-way players in the league versus them, and on the outside and the perimeter, they'd be freakish. But long-term for the Spurs to compete at least 2 years, at least to maximize the window you have with Pop, Chris Paul may be a portal to LeBron James.
Yep.
In 2018.
And
you get more bang. Yeah, you get more bang for your buck, I think, with Chris Paul.
Talking about organizational stability and what LeBron wants, that would be the perfect way in. And I remember talking with my brother. I mean, this goes back a couple years ago when LaMarcus came, and you knew that it would be time to it'd take time to fit somebody in to make it work. Chris Paul's the one type of player that really doesn't. And when you look at him as an aging player, I really think it could work huge because Kawhi Leonard is a ball-dominant guard. But then a worst-case scenario when you get stuck into a half-court set to have somebody that could be a point guard that also shoots very effectively. Chris Paul's in the top 25 in effective field goal percentage last year. I mean, you look at Kawhi Leonard in the top 35, those two would work really well together being your primary ball handlers. Yeah. And you look at, like you said, the 2018 free agency years, the big one when you got a plot for the future. Now, I think my brother had told me he's a huge Spurs fan, which is why I follow the Spurs so much. And back whenever LaMarcus signed with the Spurs, it was sort of a thought. I don't know if it was ever verbalized by Tim Duncan, but mentioned something along the lines that Pop. They're asking if he's going to retire with you. He's like, no. He's like, we just got a whole new age of young guys. So it was through Kawhi's contract.
I want to say through LaMarcus's contract was when, because I got a friend, Chris Duell, who does the Spurs pregame and postgame, and he said that Pop has been on record, I believe, for saying that he was going to stay through LaMarcus Aldridge's contract, which, basically we don't know where that stands now because we don't know his status with the Spurs. But I agree, 2018, I mean, the Spurs, people are like, man, do the Spurs have a pitch when Magic Johnson with the Lakers and Jerry West with the Clippers are essentially going to be trying to woo King James to get to the West Coast? And I agree, he wants to go to the West Coast. He's been on the East Coast with the Heat. He's been in the Midwest. He was born there with the Cavs. He wants to go West with the businesses and Hollywood and all that. But he also wants to win championships. You get Chris Paul here, and I think you got a shot at getting LeBron here because LeBron loves Pop. LeBron likes Pop, and Pop loves LeBron. I think that your pitch would be with the Green Bay Packers pitch. Hey, man, we ain't got all the nightlife and all this. What we do, we got Title Town. That's what we do. We win titles down here. You know what I mean? We talking about legacies, all-time great tradition. That's what we do. And some of the best Tex-Mex tacos, barbecue, and all that, too.
Churros.
You know what I mean? But it's going to be, man, I can't wait till 2018. Okay, let's go behind the burnt orange curtain, and then for a couple of minutes, then we'll wrap this thing up, put it in.
And they were all asking themselves the same question. What is behind that curtain?
All right, two things going behind the burnt orange curtain. Brandon Hodges decided to, he's a grad transfer, the offensive lineman for Texas football. He decided to transfer, and he came in as a 2015 JUCO, I believe, right? And there are some people now concerned because you've had a few people transfer since Tom Herman took over, and people are like a little concerned about the bus rate, as we used to call it, because recently Jordan Elliott transferred. These are guys from the 2016 class, actually, which is really alarming. Jordan Elliott, Marcel Southall, Eric Fowler, then Brandon Hodges most recently. These are guys that, 2016 class, so they really haven't even had a chance to ingratiate themselves into the program. Basically, this means Tom Herman came in. These guys saw the scheme. They got the vibe of the coaches. They saw not a depth chart, but maybe reps being distributed some certain way, and went, I see the writing on the wall. I better get out and give myself a fighting chance somewhere else, because I can see myself getting recruited over, or I'm already low on the depth chart. I'm not, and Matt, I think, can break it down better than me, because he's actually done the math. I wouldn't be concerned about the bus rate at all, because it's not, the bus rate now, I want to say for that 2014 class is around 22%. And this is, and we broke it down basically where every class, I think we did in 3 categories, and Matt was the one who did the number, so I shouldn't say we. I should just say we talked about it.
You're with it.
But NFL caliber guys, contributors, and our starters, like solid guys, contributors and our starters, and then guys who basically give you no return on your investment. Those are the busts. Those guys who transfer, they basically injuries, whatever, they bust out. And you want to avoid a high bust rate. Tom Herman right now, he does not have to deal with a high bust rate of 2014 or 2015 yet. They're around 20%, which is actually below what the norm is. By the time those classes become juniors and seniors, a lot of those guys probably will come close to what the average is. But the reason Charlie Strong had to play the 2 youngest teams in the history of Texas football is because of that 2013 class, was it?
Yeah, and 12.
2012 and 13. I think it's close to 50% bus rate for that 2013 class. I don't know if I did the 12 one, but that's why. And Charlie Strong had the purge. So on top of the bus rate that was high, the purge was part of it.
And that's what we're seeing right now,
and
too. With the new system, new coach, you're always going to have the people. When you don't recruit the players, you're going to just naturally have that attrition. And
but
then
the purge was unnatural. It was, 11 guys in like a 2-week span? But you're right, a natural attrition. That was unnatural attrition.
That was the added attrition. That was the Charlie factor doing some cleaning up.
Great.
But when you look at Tom, what he's done, and you look at the scholarship numbers to come, everybody knew that there would have to be attrition. It's just whenever there are guys that you think were going to contribute, it sort of befuddles the fans, because we really aren't there. We don't see these interactions of those 85 players on a day-to-day basis. And even if you're damn good, if you're as talented as anybody, but if you don't actually want to be there with that guy, I mean, let each part ways, and it actually will probably work out better in the long run. It's just hard to do when you see big-time recruit came to town, he gone. That's a bummer.
Yeah, no, I agree. I want people don't start panicking about that. There's no reason to panic about that just yet. Okay, one other thing I wanted to bring up, because it's really interesting. The 2018 recruiting class for Tom Herman, I think, still a top 5 class.
Yep.
And it fluctuates based on the 247 sports rankings. I've said this before. This is my theory. I believe that this class, Tom Herman wants to use it, and he hasn't said this. This is my theory, to reinvent DBU. It is one of the most talented defensive back classes in the history of the state of Texas.
Yeah.
It really is. And Texas already has their fill of them. They have, is it DeMarvion Overshone?
Yes.
Who is kind of a freak. He's like 6'3". He's like a hybrid.
We're talking about 5-star safeties.
Yeah. That's the kid from Angleton. Who's who's basically
B.J. Foster?
Yeah, I want to say he is. I don't know what he is to Quandre Diggs. He's good friends. I don't know what it is. It's
Same neck of the woods.
Yes, they both from Angleton, but I don't know if there's something official. But he is really good friends with Quandre Diggs, and that lets you know recruiting a lot of the times is not about what you know, like getting a good job. It's about who you know.
Mm-hmm.
So Quandre Diggs is the brother of Quentin Jammer, who I played with. Boom. That's why you end up getting B.J. Foster, who, he's a 5-star safety. He is rated, just on the ratings of 247 Sports, the highest rated safety, highest rated defensive back that University of Texas has ever verbally committed.
That's intensely huge.
Think about
remember how big Brandon Jones was when he came, or even guys
back
before.
He's
recent years.
He's higher rated than Brandon Jones too. Yeah, and then obviously the ratings only go back to like 1999 or something because the internet age,
modern era.
Yeah, but that just tells you that he's using this class, and they got obviously Caden Stearns, who also is, I want to say, he's one of the top 4 safeties as well in the state. And they're still trying to get Anthony Cook, who I don't know if they're going to get him. Ohio State wants him bad. Who is the young man, a defensive back from Lamar High School, from my old stomping grounds. And they got 2 safeties. And they got another one, Deshaun Jameson, I believe, who is also there, a safety. And, I mean, my old stomping grounds, they're doing it big there.
You could almost have a whole defensive backfield from Lamar at Texas.
John Bonney, Houghton Hill, yeah. Hopefully those guys will see the field. That'll be good. But, yeah, keep that in mind. They get those big-name defensive backs. That's what Tom Herman, I think. Every recruiting class is known for something. 2015, I think, Malik Jefferson, and that was a big recruitment. 2016, I think you get Shane Buechele. Even back in 99, you get Chris Sims. There's always kind of this signature of every recruiting class. I believe 2018's recruiting class will be known for having reinvented DBU around that group.
While we're on the theme of recruiting classes, look at that Texas class coming up with Mo Bamba. I wanted to break down some quick numbers because we just saw Jared Allen go 22nd overall in the NBA draft.
That's right. Nets.
Just a couple years ago, a lot of people thought Miles Turner, maybe a guy left too early, but excuse me, when you look at his numbers while he was in the league, just say from his first year to his second year, massive growth he had a player efficiency rating in the top 10 of all of basketball, and that was when he was playing at center, and that was his rookie year. You go on to the last 2 years, what he's been, defensive metrics, offensive metrics, he's been in the top 15, and that's with a very raw piece of clay. Then you see what Jared Allen's coming in. I can give you these numbers. Right now, with him being a 7'5" wingspan, they sort of did a breakdown of him on Sports Science, looking at the cubic feet that he covers.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Did you see this?
I didn't see it, but
Rudy Gobert, right now, you could say the lengthiest, most imposing
it's the
defender
longest
all of
wingspan
basketball
in the league.
Yes. Anyways, he can cover 3,619 cubic square feet. Jared Allen's wingspan, because when added to the quickness that he can elevate faster than a guy like Rudy Gobert, actually a bigger cubic feet range of 3,695. So you're saying that guy has more of a range ability to cover than Rudy Gobert. And then when you look at who's coming in Mo Bamba, he has a 7'10" wingspan. He's longer, taller. He's 2 inches shorter than Gobert, but he's much longer than any of these guys. So you look at that next class coming in with a 5-star and Matt Coleman at point guard, a 5-star Mo Bamba. You could argue he's going to be the longest player in the NBA when he gets there because Jared Allen was just that, and it's longer than Rudy Gobert. It's going to be crazy to see what Shaka Smart can do since he's been able to get a lot of these kids from that under-18 Team USA that he was able to form relationships with and now funneling back to the university. So it's going to be big to see if it continues with this theme because Kevin Durant, just as popular as anybody in the league right now, and Longhorns have been across NBA basketball for really the past decade.
Man, Longhorns in the length. Like they
It's
look like
insane.
avatars
No,
now.
Kevin Durant,
Kevin
like, is when he's
Durant,
hugging Tim
Jared
Duncan
Allen.
at the end of last season, he's as tall and longer than Tim
Man, they
Duncan.
gotta get a picture with all those long guys. I gotta go see Mo Bamba in person, like get floor court
Yes.
seats, because I want to see how long he is. Too. It's gonna be freakish.
Since I just mentioned
Yeah.
Tim Duncan, this thing also cracked me up when you think about him. I still remember everybody saying the best power forward of all time. It's like, right now, that sounds 4 and a 7-foot power forward. That's never going to happen again in the NBA.
That's
It's
freakish. Yeah,
it's
that's
just
crazy.
in modern games crazy.
Yeah, it is, no doubt about it. All right, Matt, I want to thank you for everything you do.
You're
I want
more
to thank my
than
man
welcome.
Travis for making us modern, baby, going to the 21st century.
Mr. Crumb.
All the folks out there joining us in the Twitterverse as well. All right, you can also, how can they get the ButRod podcast a little bit later on? Give them all
Same
the ways.
spot, just type in ButRod Longhorn Blitz. It's going to be right there on our old page.
All right, folks. We'll be back next week with another ButRod. Remember, we're all going to start doing our own Behind the Burnt Orange Curtain podcast separate from this. That'll be coming up as close as we get to football season. We'll get closer and closer to getting that done for you as well. I want to thank everybody out there for joining us. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on ButRod. Love you guys. Peace.
Almost over. Done.
You have been listening to ButRod. To get every episode of ButRod absolutely for free, you can subscribe to Longhorn Blitz on any podcast app, or you can visit the podcast page at am1300thezone.com.